Hello and welcome to Energy Readings with Shelby Aesthetic. I'm glad you guys could join me tonight. I have an awesome guest tonight. Reverend Barb Adams is with me. We're going to have pretty interesting topic discussion, I think, tonight. We're going to ask her some questions and kind of get to know her and talk to you guys a little bit about her and some of the things that she does and some of the things that she's teaching. Before I get too far into that, let's see, let me find my notes. I'm supposed to be organized before I hit the record button. Okay, so I'm going to let you guys know a little bit about what's going on. So last week you guys heard us talking about inside the elements with Rhonda Starkey, and the week before that we talked about inside the chakras. So next week, the 12th, we're going to do part 2 of Inside the Chakras, and then the following week is the 19th, and we will do part 3. So this is based on a blog that I wrote last year. Yeah, I think it was last year. And it's basically what I see clairvoyantly through my own vision and what I see inside the chakras and how I work with them. We actually had a pretty, well, I thought it was a great meditation toward the end of that first session. And then the following 2 discussions that we hold on the 12th and the 19th, we're going to do some meditations with those 2. So we're going to use sort of what we've learned from each one and kind of use them in the meditation during the show. So be there if you can. It's going to be neat. We're also going to have Kathleen Moore on the 3rd of October. We've tried to get her scheduled a couple times. Well, I say we, but I mean me. And the first time, I can't remember, something fell through with me, and then the second time she got really sick, so she couldn't do the show. So we're going to say that third time's the charm, hopefully. Fingers crossed. We're going to be talking about stones and gems and crystals and their uses, and Kathleen's been a psychic medium for like 2 decades, I think, so she's got lots of experience. And then after that, we're going to do readings. So I haven't done readings on my show in a while. We've mostly been doing topic discussion because there's just so much information out there, and I'm a firm believer that the more information and knowledge that we have and that we share with each other, the better we become as citizens, as humanity. The exchange of ideas is probably one of the greatest gifts, I think, that we have to be able to share with each other. That and our time, which I've always said time is one of my most valuable things. Okay, so we are broadcasting from IntuiTalks. This is an awesome platform. Jenny Davis runs this platform. This is kind of her second job. Tonight's her birthday. So if you're friends with her on Facebook, make sure you say happy birthday to her, send her a message. She's an incredible lady. She's developed this site on her own time for a spiritual community, and it's got lots of different podcasts on it. She also offers options for free spiritual websites that, so if you're out there listening and you want to develop a website, a spiritual website, this is the place to do it. That's all on IntuiTalks.com. Check out some of the packages that she has if you're wanting to do a show. That's where I do my podcast from. Let's see. So on IntuiTalks this week, actually tonight after my show, Barbara DeLong is going to be on Curious Times. She's a really interesting lady. She's got a really cool blog that she puts out talking about the different months and the energies of the different months, and she's like super smart too, so check her out. September 9th, there's 3 different shows coming up. Angel Meadows at 6:30 Eastern, another one Empowering Women at 9 Eastern, and Amy Kavanaugh at 10 Eastern on Curious Times, which I think Curious Times still has video. I don't have video on mine, so I'm fortunate enough not to have to comb my hair before a show. But yeah, Curious Times is on almost every night, but there's lots of different podcasts on here, so check them out. There's one that hasn't broadcast live for a while that I talk about every single time. That's energy readings with, I'm not energy readings, that's, see, I can't even talk and type at the same time. It's actually Renee Richards' show. It's Teaching Tuesday. So if you're a developing medium or psychic, there's an incredible amount of information. All of this is free to you. So any archive of any of these shows you can listen to anytime. It's a really incredible network of spiritually minded people. And my favorite part about it, I think, is we don't all believe in the same thing. So that's kind of like part of the cool part about it, I think, well, in my opinion. Anyway, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and bring on Barb, if I can get my mute to unlock. Are you there, Reverend Barb?
Yes, I am. Hi, Shelby.
Hi, fantastic. I'm so excited to have you on tonight. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I've been thinking about this show since I ran across you on Facebook, actually. I don't even remember how. I kept trying to think. I don't know if it was a group that you had posted in or if I just ran across your website or your Facebook page. I cannot remember. But regardless, when I saw you, you were talking about, being in harmony with yourself. And I just thought, wow, you have the most incredible light around you, and you were just so peaceful and calm, and I thought, I've got to reach out to her.
Thank you, Shelby. Actually, I think you saw a video that I had made about walking a path.
That's
Is
right.
That the one that you,
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I was out for what I try to have be my daily walk for exercise and for contemplation. And often when I'm walking, I will be having conversations with Spirit. And an insight came to me that as I was looking at this straight sidewalk path in front of me, it just correlated with our path that we're walking home. And the impediments that can get in our way, because I was looking at some branches that were sticking out that I had to walk around or scrape my arm against, or some puddles that I had to walk around. But it just gave me inspiration for that video, and I came home and recorded it. So I'm happy that you found me via that video. Thank you.
Well, so before I get into for anybody listening or watching on YouTube, I don't know how to make the slideshow go by itself, but I do have Reverend Barb's information up so you can see how to reach her is peaceandharmonyministry.org. What are some other ways people can reach you? I know you have a Facebook page.
I have a Facebook page, Peace and Harmony Ministry Facebook page. I also have the Facebook page for the children's book that I wrote, and that page is called Of Course Publishing. And I have that website also, ofcoursepublishing.com, as well as my website. Did we say my website? peaceandharmonyministry.org is my website. Yes, yes.
Well, and there's a lot of information on there about you, but I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that first, about you, and tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how did you get to where you are? I know you're a teacher and a student of A Course in Miracles. You're an author. I mean, you've got all kinds of things happening.
I'm a retired educator. I was a health and physical education teacher for 32 plus years, and actually the last 6 years in my education career, I was a district administrator and a house administrator. But my greatest joy, my greatest joy was classroom teaching. And I worked with middle school students, and the topics, but I loved it because they are of an age where they're old enough to understand, and we had to talk about some pretty heavy-duty stuff. We're talking human sexuality, we're talking HIV/AIDS, STD, sexually transmitted infections or diseases. So that's pretty heavy-duty stuff for 11, 12, or 13-year-olds.
It's a perfect time, though.
It is. It truly is. And what I was saying is they're old enough to get it, but they're young enough to have fun with and to be silly and creative and imaginative. And a lot of my teaching that I did after creating what I hope was always a safe environment for kids, a safe and respectful environment for them. One of the teaching methods that I employed was that of storytelling. And through storytelling, I would create characters who would be involved in a situation that we were studying, such as Barbie and Ken might be meeting and having to deal with a sexually transmitted infection that either Barbie gave Ken or Ken gave Barbie, we don't know. But by becoming those characters, the kids could relax, get lost in the humor, but then we could talk about the chain of infection and those serious matters that needed to be discussed. So
that's great. That's great, because it really is. I think my own childhood, I'm traumatized by middle school, so especially that stuff. So that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. So that was like my dream job, and I can think of a day that it went from teaching a bunch of students to relating to my neighbors, because I lived in the community, relating to my neighbors. And I don't know if that comes across as profound as the insight was to me, but it was that realization that we truly were one. And by recognizing the unity of us, I felt that connection to them, and I run into students who are now adults themselves who share that they felt something very similar to what I was feeling. And when you are able to extend your love and your joy and your peace through what you're doing, it is given back to you 100-fold. And that's where true learning and joy come together. That's the intersection right there.
That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. So I guess the inspiration didn't just come from you being a teacher, but also kind of incorporating all of the stuff that you had learned from A Course in Miracles. How long had you been studying that before you decided to write this book?
Yeah. I started studying the Course. I was brought up Catholic, and I'm a gay woman, and Roman Catholicism and being gay were not a very good mix. And so as much as I felt a call to join with my spirituality, the dogma of the church was really turning me away. But I found a church in our town, it's called Shelbys Christi in the city of Rochester, that really pulled away from the Roman Catholic Church and became an independent Catholic church. And the reason that Shelbys pulled away is because the pastor at the time invited women to celebrate the Eucharist, women up to the altar, invited women to preach or to give the homily, celebrated the unions of gay and lesbian couples, and invited everyone to communion, whether they were Catholic or not, whether they were Christian or not. And so this sense of inclusiveness really, it was a real, I felt at home there. I was at home. And I'm getting to the point of A Course in Miracles here. One of the guest homilists, Patty Fields, who was giving a homily, and she is A Course in Miracles teacher, and she blended A Course in Miracles in with the teachings of the Gospels. And as she spoke about A Course in Miracles, I said, there is my teacher, because I had picked up A Course in Miracles book 10 years or more prior, tried reading it on my own and said, I don't get this stuff. And I've heard so many, I don't get this. And I've heard so many people since say the same thing. But when Patty Patty Shields spoke, I said, there's my teacher. And so I've been studying with Patty ever since. And what that has shown me is, that love is really what it is. Love is universal. Love is who we are. And that we're not sinners. We are divine creatures created in the image of our source, of our creator, of our God, whatever word people are comfortable with. And with recognizing that we are one with God or with our source, that not only implies but denotes that as God is, so am I. As God is pure and innocent and abundant and loving and joyful, so am I. If that's what God is, that's what I am. And that is such a radical change from what was preached from the pulpit all of my years of growing up and into young adulthood and into middle age. So the course really spoke to me. Yeah.
Well, and I've heard a lot of people, say the same thing about the Course in Miracles, but I have also found it really interesting that when of course, the old saying, when the student's ready, the teacher appears type thing, but I've also found it really interesting because there's a lot of information there. I mean, there's a ton of information surrounding A Course in Miracles. And actually, if you don't mind, I wanted to read a little something I had picked out off your website that kind of goes a little bit with what we're talking about under the Rainbow Connection.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It says, years ago, I'm sorry, let me that's the one up. I suffered for years as a closeted Catholic, being preached at and lectured to from the pulpit. I was sent messages that I was damned to the flames of hell. However, I couldn't publicly grieve or lash out. So I did what so many LGBTQ people do. I damned myself. I escorted myself to hell. I internalized the hate and attempted to hide it deep within. Years ago at a workshop, I heard a woman telling of suppressing feelings and needs. I'm paraphrasing when I relate her message. Hiding something you fear is like burying yourself alive. You clamor and claw at yourself as you attempt to dig your way back out of life, or back out to life. Through deep contemplation and prayer, I gained the strength to seek assistance in remembering and accepting my true self. Spiritual counseling helped awaken the memory of light within. When I read that the other day, I got goosebumps like crazy. I related to that. Now, when I first connected with you, I didn't realize that any of this stuff about you. But I resonated with this after I read it because through my own personal similar experiences and stuff that I've had, and watching somebody, you or anybody really, kind of flower out of the state of damning ourselves and not being good enough and realizing our true self, like you said. I mean, it takes years of practice, of course, and nobody's perfect. But embracing that part of yourself has been the biggest freedom for me, embracing who I am, my true self, my highest self of good, like you were talking about. That's the miracle in and of itself, I think. I don't know where religion went with, the teachings of love and how it got so, twisted. I don't know when that happened, but people like you and, coming forward and discussing your own past and your triumphs through this, I think it is pioneered the way for so many people, especially young people, that now have the opportunity to believe in themselves and to love themselves because they know that they're worthy.
Absolutely. And if you keep in mind, if you look at my picture, you can tell that I'm not a youngster, and I never hesitate saying my age. I'm 71 and a half years old. And if you go back, let's say if you go back that many years and think about what the culture was like, not only within the church, but within society at large, where the gay and lesbian LGBTQ community how it was regarded, there was nothing there that was life-giving. In fact, it was damning and life-draining and life-taking. So if the message that is out there is that one is no good, one is less than, one is damned, as one of, I'm sorry to say, one of my relatives who has not been enlightened yet referred to me as a reprobate. She's a woman of a church, her own church. And I have extended in my heart forgiveness to her because she hasn't seen the light of really what God created in me. And as I tried to share that with her, that I am as God is, as is she asked me, as did my uncle, why was I being so defensive? And in fact, what's really kind of cool is that I was defending myself. I was defending the truth of who I am. And so younger people who are able to accept who they are, God bless them, because society has at least awakened a bit, has it a lot easier. And that being said, I know that there are still young people and even people perhaps my age who are still closeted out of fear of being rejected, out of fear of losing their job, as I was afraid of losing. Can you imagine being a teacher and being gay? You know, so there was so much to overcome, but it was a decision that I had to make, because the decision was either I accept my true self and lead my life in the way that I need to lead it, or my life on this planet is not going to be here any longer, because it was that life taking from me. So to find A Course in Miracles and to read and to discuss with my study group and others with whom I've talked about the Course, to read about my innocence and my purity, and that I am love and peace and joy, that is life-giving, and that has filled me, and that has become essentially now who I am. So I don't live in fear, I live in love. I have bad days. Thank you. I have bad days. You know, I have to catch myself if I find myself being judgmental. But the neat thing about that is that I'm catching myself now. You know,
right.
I'm damning someone else and saying, but don't damn me. At least now I stop and say, no, that's not the path I want. Holy Spirit, help me see this another way, please. Let me see the truth of who is in front of me.
And how long have you been, now you said you've been doing this for how long now? About 6 years as a teacher, is that right?
Let me see. I've been studying, I studied with my teacher beginning in 2011. And being a type A personality in terms of my studies, I was going to get this. I started, and I'm going to study it and get it and learn it and talk about it and go to conferences. And so, you know, I was willing. That's a big word with the Course. I guess with anything, I was willing to have my mind changed. I was willing to go from fear to love, because
well, you sound like you've been doing it for 30 years.
Well, somewhere in my youth and childhood.
And you mentioned that though on your website. You said even as a child you felt to serve in a spiritual capacity. Yes. I found that. I think that's I don't understand that. I find that so amazing. My mentor even has, mentioned that thing. That, being, feeling like she wanted to, be married to Jesus, I think is what she said. I can't remember exactly, but I think that's I find that fascinating.
Well, I remember as a kid, I mean, I went to church every Sunday, and I really didn't go as an obligation, even though we were as Catholics. And I don't mean to put Catholics down. I'm just saying my experience with the Catholic Church was not a good one. I'm sure there are lots of people who had good experiences. And forgive me if I sound as if I was being condemning of the Catholic Church. It wasn't for me as far as the dogma, but as a place to worship, as a place to kneel and pray and find silence in my mind, as a way, as a place to, and as I'm telling you this, Shelby, I'm seeing myself as probably an 11 or 12-year-old kid kneeling in St. Hugh's Roman Catholic Church on Huntington Station, Long Island, New York, and, praying my little heart out there and trying to learn Latin as the priest was saying it and responding in Latin. So there was a calling to unite, to recognize, no, let me change that. There was a calling to remember that I am united with my source, with God. That's the calling to remember who I was, who I am. And to serve was, the calling then was not so much to serve in ministry then. The calling was to serve in my life to those who crossed my path, to reach out to those who felt left out, to reach out to those who didn't quite get it, whatever it was at the time. I told you I was a health and PE teacher, and so sports athletics was something that came quite easily to me. And as a student leader back in Huntington High School on Long Island, I didn't necessarily, I helped out my PE teachers, but I was drawn to those kids who didn't like PE. I was drawn to the kids who felt like they weren't good enough. And so I innately recognized their fear and their stubbornness as a call for love. As saying,
wow.
I couldn't have put that in words then, but that's what I felt.
I think that's incredible. It's like your life has been so purposed the entire time. I mean, even your experiences as a child, and then as a gay woman, and then as a teacher, and then coming into this Course in Miracles. It's like this, and you're right and it goes back to that video about your path. I mean, it has just been listening to you. It's almost like I'm watching this. You develop into who you are. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing that you're doing also with people at your page and the books that you're writing and the people that you're reaching out to. I do have a question about A Course in Miracles. So if somebody's never heard of this, how would you explain it to them? Because I think a lot of people, I'm from the South. Well, that's where I am right now. And it's people are very, they're very religious around me. But also I think that I have noticed, especially with the younger generations I've been here just about 18 years now in this city. But I've noticed people really turning away from anything that has to do with the word God or miracle or anything like that because of the dogma and because of the things that have developed, the hate that has come from the people, not the religion necessarily, but from the people. So when they hear A Course in Miracles, of course, their first thing oftentimes I think is to turn the other way. So if somebody were to ask you, I know it's really difficult to explain but if somebody were to ask you, what is A Course in Miracles and how is it going to assist me in my daily life? And what if I don't believe in these religious organizations and the things that they
Mm-hmm.
teach. Will this work for me?
Oh, that's a great question, Shelby. It's a great series of questions. Let me see if I can how I can say this. A Course in Miracles is really a curriculum. It's a study guide. There are workbook lessons, one for each day. There's a text that gives greater context to the lesson. And then there's a manual for teachers. Let's say those are the first three parts, or the 3 parts of the book. Now, what confuses people a lot of times is the word miracle, because that sounds like somebody's slapping somebody on the forehead and saying you are healed. But that's not it. A miracle really is a change in perception. It's
Ooh, I like that.
Isn't that cool? It's going from a place of fear, and you're gonna hear me say that a lot. You know, the 2 words love and fear, because let me finish this thought. It's going from a place of fear and judgment to a place of love and acceptance. And what it is let's say I'm ticked off at somebody, okay? And I am really ticked off, and all kinds of things are going through my head, and I think that I know exactly what this person is thinking and why they did what they're doing and what I should say to them. And what the Course says, and I'm going to get back a little bit more to how the Course came to be, if you want me to.
No, absolutely. We've got plenty of time.
Yeah, beautiful. What the Course is saying is stop. Stop. Stop this ego thinking, because we have 2 teachers. We have ego and we have spirit. Some people would say we have the angel and we have the devil. Whatever words you want. But my ego, when I'm ticked off, my ego is saying, go get them, go get them. You show them, Barb. Gosh darn it. You show them. But the Course says, stop, because you don't know anything. You have no idea what's going on in this person's mind. You have no idea what came before this. You have no idea who this person really is. And so stop and ask, Holy Spirit, please show me the truth. Please show me another way to look at this. Spirit, please show me the truth of this person. And by our willingness to stop all the ego chatter and our willingness to quiet our mind, and also our willingness to receive another way, once we actually see or hear the other way and perceive who is before us as who they truly are, we have then experienced the miracle. That's how a miracle is defined.
I love that.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, yes, it is. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful explanation.
Yeah. You see, this book is pretty thick. I'm looking at it and I'm holding it and I'm leafing through it as we speak. But if you take these, can I just read you this very brief introduction? Okay, this is the introduction to A Course in Miracles. This is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, or that it's beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. Oh, Shelby, I have to read that again because that's what has to be underlined. It does, here goes the course. It does aim, however, at removing the block to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. The course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God.
That's very nice.
Isn't that beautiful?
It really is. My first exposure actually to A Course in Miracles was from a woman that I actually met through IntuiTalks. Her name is Amy Kavanaugh. She and I mean I had heard of it. I just never I don't know. I don't know. I just never got, I guess, because the word miracle. I'm like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But I started watching some YouTube videos and some other things, and I haven't gotten into studying it at all. But I found it really fascinating how much in line it was with the I Am teachings and about bringing your really about knowing your own power and knowing who you are. What I really enjoyed about A Course in Miracles was, it's not a teacher taking you by the hand and being your power for you. It's really developed for the person to grow themselves and to own their own parts of themselves and to have their own power. And I love that because I think that in my personal opinion, one of the biggest things and turnaways from church these days is you're giving your power away to something greater than you rather than it is a part of you. So exactly. To me, this was a wonderful, and I'm so glad. It's so popular too. I had no idea. There's so much information out there, and people talking about it. I was just really blown away. I saw something on your site too, and it said I had written it down here somewhere. It says, "You have all the wisdom you need. Allow me to walk beside you as you remember who you are." And I loved that because you're not, when people are coming to you, you're not their guru. You are teaching them who they are. And I find that truth, that's truth. And I appreciate that. I appreciate what you're doing for other people.
Thank you.
Somebody in the chat room said, when you said love's presence is your natural inheritance. That they like that, and I'm like, man, if I would have known all those years ago that these things that I know now that are being taught, and that I'm still learning about who I am and where I'm going and what I want to be a part of in life. If I knew my own power then, and especially I'll probably say this 20 years from now, if I would have known back then, I feel I don't have regrets in life, but I feel that I'm really grateful that I found a lot of these teachings now rather than waiting until it was too late. So I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled with what you're doing.
Thank you, Shelby. I appreciate that.
Now we did talk briefly about your book. Is this the only thing? You have a blog too. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's part of my website. It's on there. I have another blog somewhere else. I've kind of lost track of it. But yeah, the blog, the blog on my website. Yes. But my hope has been that my book is called "The Adventures of the Course Kids Through Faith and Grace." Helping children learn and live the teachings of A Course in Miracles. My hope was to have a series of these books, and I'm not saying that I'm not going to. I just right now am pulled in so many different directions that
Sure.
I'm trying to maintain a balance. But I have in here would you want me to tell you how I defined who the course kids are?
Yeah, I do. I actually have a couple of questions about that because I was curious if it was, and you said it was available on Amazon. Before I go any further, I want to say that.
Yes, thank you.
But you said this was, is this directed at a certain age group, or are parents supposed to read this with, with their children, or how does it work? I'm interested.
Mm-hmm. I targeted, and probably because of my experience, we not only do we teach what we learn, but we write what we know. I targeted mostly the middle school age, let's say 11, 12, 13 in there, but it certainly is applicable to 7, 8, 9, and then even beyond a little bit. And my hopes with the book is that it could be read either a child, a kid could read it by themselves, certainly, but it would be kind of cool if a parent or a caregiver either read the book with their child or after the child read it. What I provided at toward the back of the book are lessons that a parent could go over.
Oh, fantastic.
There are activities in the back here. I demonstrate the following idea through an art form, and then I give an idea. Or cut out pictures from magazines with your parents' permission, of course, and create a collage that shows the following: God's peace and joy are mine, which is a lesson in the workbook. Write a story or a poem with the following title: I invited love in and told fear to leave, which is again based on a lesson. And then I also have in here some ideas, some actual teaching skills for parents and caregivers about suggested ways of teaching in terms of modeling the desired skills and outcomes, and some open-ended questions that they can ask, such as, can you tell me about a time when, how would you describe blah, 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 so that it encourages conversation, not just with a yes or a no answer, and that they provide something I call, or let's teachers in my district called, a think aloud, such as, geez, that man got really angry at that woman in the supermarket. If that happened, I think what I might do is just step back for a little bit until I felt calm before I said anything or asked another question, so that the parent or the caregiver is thinking aloud and helping to provide that model for their kids as to how they can incorporate the course into their everyday life. And it's all age appropriate and developmentally appropriate, what we teach our kids.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and there's not to keep jumping back to your website, but I guess in relation to this, you had I think you wrote this, the Look to the Children.
I'm sorry?
So it says Look to the Children on your website. It's just like a little, I don't know, it's a little quote, I guess. Maybe you wrote it, but it's kind of in relation to what you were talking about, and it says, look to the child and then remember the child within yourself in each part. That part of us that simply wants to be accepted for truth of ourselves. That part that says, please don't look at the outer me, see the true inner me. That part that has been scarred, scared, and who simply needs the space to be, who simply needs to be accepted and loved for the essence of our souls, if you would just see with your heart. I love that, because it reminds me that I think children are one of our being adults' greatest teachers and reminders of not just where we came from, but the importance of innocence and protecting that, and allowing development of children in their time, and because I think society has a lot of pressures on kids these days.
Yes.
A lot of them. them. And I can't speak for the generations before me or after me, but just that I feel like just since I have been a child and watching how things are now, it's just grown. It's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, and the burdens that they carry become greater and greater and greater, and everything's so fast now. It's hard to go within yourself, let alone taking the time to teach your child, not just about themselves, but the awareness of just stop for a second. Because my son, sometimes if he gets mad, he just, and it's very rare, but when he does, I just kind of stare at him for a second because I'm shocked. But it is important, I think, learning from a young age to be self-aware and not make predictions based on who and what somebody else is doing and why, and just say, I don't know what they're going through, and maybe there's a reasonable explanation for this, or maybe, and especially our response in things these days is so quick-tempered, and it's hard as an adult to, I feel bad for the kids these days.
Yeah. I care for my two of our three grandchildren. I care for two of our grandchildren. This school year it'll be 3 days a week. And in fact, I just got home from caring for them. And they are, along with my own children, they are certainly the light of my life. But all children, they have meltdowns, and they create challenges for us, for the adults. And there are times when, our patience wears thin, and we can have a knee-jerk response. And my little one, this was last year. She was 3. She's 4 now, and she was just having a meltdown, and I was really feeling like I was going to lose my patience, and I remembered something that I had learned from another teacher, about another course teacher, something she calls the pause, and I have come up with something very similar to that. So when my granddaughter was really throwing a hissy fit, I just stood up and I breathed, and she's still crying, and I said, okay, Holy Spirit, please help me to see this another way, because I know this is not, and I'm saying this out loud, I know that this is not the true essence of who, and I named her who she is. And my granddaughter, who was screaming, and all of a sudden said, Nana, what are you doing? Nana, what are you doing? I said, it's all right, hang on a second, honey. I'm just praying, because I just wanted a reminder of who you really are. So just give me a minute here while I'm, I'm just praying. Just give me a minute here while I'm praying. And so, Holy Spirit, please help me remember the truth of who Emmy is, so that as I remember her truth, she also remembers her truth. And, again, I'm standing up, she's sitting down on the floor, and she's looking up at me, but the whole tantrum stopped.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And after I said, I'm just praying, just give me a minute, she says, oh, okay. And then I was done, she was done, and we just didn't even talk about it, but just went on to whatever the next thing was. So,
yep. A reaction. Yes, reaction is such a huge thing. It really is. My family, my mother was quite the Catholic herself, but she, and so I've really resisted. And she was very sharp too with her words. And I remember I was terrified of her as a child. And there are times now when I will get upset, even with my own son, and I don't even have to say anything. It's really, my reaction doesn't have to be verbal to scare him or to engage him in whatever's going. I just have to look, and I can see it in the fear. And the first time I saw that, it bothered me so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
because I realized what I was doing, but I beat myself up at first, and I thought, well, you know, this is what I was learned how to behave. This is not, you know, and I'm not perfect. So, but even now when he's behaving that way, and that's a great thing too, to just say, remind me who he is.
Yeah. I remember who you really are. That's all.
Yes, I love that.
You carry on. You carry on.
Yes,
but I'm just going to remember who you really are.
I do, and I think that I love that. It reminds me of love. It's just love, and reacting in love instead of anger and frustration, because it is
right.
I mean, God, I don't even have to use it on him. I could use that on anybody. You know,
that's exactly right. That's
traffic. Yeah.
See, that's it. And that's the miracle. See?
Yes, I do. I love that.
Isn't that cool?
That's so cool.
You know, isn't that cool?
It is. There's a couple people in the chat room that are excited about this too. So I want to remind everybody too, this particular book, and it's getting dark and I can't reach the light switch, but it says The Adventures of the Course Kids Through Faith and Grace. Now it is available on Amazon, right? Or they can
correct.
also buy it from your website too, or
the website will just redirect them to Amazon.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
perfect.
The Adventures of the Course Kids Through Faith and Grace, author Barbara Franco Adams.
And of course, your other website, ofcoursepublishing.com, they can go there and it'll link them straight to the Amazon. So before we run out of time, I have a couple of more quick questions for you, if you don't mind.
No, I'd love it. This is fun.
So how did you become ordained? I know you said you had studied for a while, but is there?
Yep.
So is this? So when you do teachings, I guess, or when you're doing ministry work, are you doing this in like a church, or is there like a Course in Miracles church? Like, I don't understand how or are you just doing this online, or?
Let me tell you. So once I was studying the course for up until 2 years ago, I had gone to an international conference on the course, and there I met my facilitator, Reverend Maria Felipe, who wrote a book, Live Your Happy. And I went to her workshop, and one of the things that Reverend Maria said was, she was talking about either her parents or her former husband, but she said, no, her parents. She said, I realized they did the best they could with the awareness they had at the time. Which, for all of the guilt that I've carried around, because now remember, I was a married woman, and God bless them, I have 2 biological adult children, as well as my partner's 2 adult children and our grandson on that side. But that line, they did the best they could with the awareness they had at the time. When Maria Felipe said that, I thought, that does it, because that was then my call to talk with Maria. She studied at the Pathways of Light Spiritual College. Now that is a facilitated online college. So all of the work is online, and you meet with your facilitator and other teachers, along with your local Course in Miracles teacher. And Maria facilitated I don't know how many hundreds of hours it was. And at the completion of those courses, I invited her to come I'm in Rochester, New York. I invited Maria here to perform the ordination here for my family and friends. And Look to the Children was really the title of my speech that I gave at my ordination. So what I do is that I meet physically here in Rochester. I meet with students. I present something called Healing the Inner Child, which is in group format or one-on-one format. I have preached at Dignity Integrity Rochester, which is an LGBTQ community of Catholics and Episcopalians. So I've preached there. And I've preached at Bethany House, which is a home for women in crisis as well as their young children. So preaching and teaching is really the kingpin of what I'm doing, as well as the healing the inner child. So that's taken a big bunch of my energies in my ministry right now.
Oh, I bet. I love that you can do these things in person too. I like doing stuff online, but there's something special about being able to meet with your teacher or your students. I think. The day I met my mentor was. I don't even know how it just happened. Like it just happened. She lives in a different state than I do. We just happened to be going on vacation there. I mean, everything just like played out perfectly, and there's just something very special about one-on-one contact. So for the people listening now and in the chat room, if somebody wanted to study with you, can they do that online, or do they need to find like a local chapter of?
If they want to study, they can study with me online. We can talk on the phone. I had a chat room that I just got set up through the Zoom meeting room, but I could give them the link to that. I'd love to have more students. I also teach students who wish to be ordained. So right now, my ministry is flourishing beautifully. But there's always room for more students. So I would welcome people contacting me through my website. I could also give my phone number. I have my ministry phone number. Could I give that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's 585-633-8769. 585-633-8769. It's Reverend Barb Adams.
Reverend Barb, I appreciate you so very much for coming on to the show tonight. It has been an absolute pleasure. I hope we can have you back again.
I'd love to, Shelby. This has been delightful. I'm standing up right now because I'm so excited.
I've learned so much too. I'm really I knew this was going to be great. I'm so happy. I'll reach back out to you here in a little couple hours or tomorrow. I'll probably message you. But thank you again for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Shelby. I appreciate it.
I'm going to mute you real quick before we.
Okay.
Okay, and anybody listening on archives can go back for that phone number if they need to. And remember that you can find Reverend Barb at peaceandharmonyministries.org, or you can find her book at ofcoursepublishing.com, and that'll take you to the Amazon link. I appreciate everybody for coming tonight, those of you in chat, those of you that are listening live, and of course anyone that's going to be on archives. I appreciate you guys as well. We are broadcasting from IntuiTalks.com. I know I already said that, but I just love this platform. It's an amazing place. So if you are interested in your own spiritual website, you can get one for free here. You can get a podcast here. We have spiritual classrooms. There's all kinds of great things. And lots of stuff coming up this week. Like I mentioned, there's a show tonight after this one at 10 Eastern with Barbara DeLong. And then September 9th, there's 3 different shows coming up. The Angel Meadows show at 6:30 Eastern, Empowering Women at 9 Eastern, and Amy Kavanaugh at 10 Eastern on Curious Time. She's always a trip, so got to watch that. And I say watch that because Chris has a video camera. Okay, so I appreciate you guys for being here. Join us next week where we go into Inside the Chakras Part 2, and we're going to follow that up with a meditation. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think there's some extra information in there that we're going to cover that we didn't 2 weeks ago. And then, of course, the following week will be Inside the Chakras Part 3. There's just so much information that I had to put it in into 3 different podcasts. I'm sure you guys will get a lovely kick out of listening to me talk the entire 60 minutes of the show. And then October 3rd, we're going to have Kathleen Moore here. She's going to be talking about crystals and gems and stones and energy with that. And we're going to do readings, since we haven't done readings in a long time. So be sure to show up for that. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. I'm going to stop recording. You guys have a fantastic evening, and we'll see you next week.